Football, the world's most global sport, the world's most loved sport, a sport that brings joy to billions of people across the globe, across every continent and every country, a sport that brings people together in union and brings moments of joy, sadness and pure fulfillment. However, there is an argument that today's game isn't what it once was, and when you've got people like R9 saying he prefers watching tennis over football nowadays, you know something's wrong. And to be honest, one of the reasons behind football becoming less and less entertaining for some people is due to the tactical side of it, with people saying the likes of Pep Guardiola and the emphasis on possession-based tactics have made players robotic. Now, of course, I'm not taking away anything from Guardiola. He is obviously a brilliant coach and arguably the best manager of all time, winning multiple trophies and coaching some of the best teams we've ever seen, like those Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Manchester City sides. So obviously his tactics work and they work very well, but when other coaches, particularly down the lower leagues of football, try to implement this themselves, it just doesn't work. And I was watching Southampton versus Brentford the other day, and Southampton were just trying to play this exact type of football, just like Manchester City. But when you don't have that quality around you, it just doesn't work. And in fact, Sam Allardyce also said a very similar thing.
I mean, the media have made it worse now that no young manager, and I feel really sorry for him, no young manager can perceive to play anything other than tippy-tappy.
Right.
And it's some of the worst football I've seen in my life.
Like
Some of the most boring football I've seen in my life. The Premier League has suffered from it because everybody, and not only that, it's gone down all the leagues.
Right.
Managers are getting sacked because they're not playing the right type of football. And what is the right type of football?
I think it's winning football, personally.
Correct. So do we all, but now it's not.
And of course, back in the day, a lot of us who are older now are used to watching players like Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, Suarez, Ronaldinho, Rooney, Xavi, Iniesta, the list goes on. And all these players had something about them that just made football so entertaining and so enjoyable to watch. And you sort of compare them to the players we have now, they don't really compare. I mean, of course, today we have like absolute superstars like Haaland and Mbappe, but you compare them to the players I just mentioned and they just don't compare. Now, of course, a strong argument against this is that we've just come off the peak of Messi and Ronaldo, the two greatest players we'll ever see, who put up ridiculous numbers every year and reached heights that no one ever thought was humanly possible. So of course, coming off the back of that, it's kind of easy to say that the players of today don't compare to the players, say, during the 90s or the 2010s. Now, of course, I grew up watching teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Juventus in the Champions League, who had an abundance of quality players with flair and skill, who would take on players and score a screamer from 30 yards out. And you compare that to the football that's played nowadays, and it feels different and it feels a lot more detailed and intricate, with more emphasis on just keeping the ball in certain areas. And the clip that's always stuck in my mind about this topic is when Michael Owen said that to be a good footballer in the current game, you just have to be a good athlete and not necessarily a good player.
Well, now you have to be an athlete. Right. You just have to be able to run. You have to be big. You have to be fast. You have to, you have to be covering X amount of kilometres. If Matt Letizia, one of the most gifted players of our time, of our generation, would he get into a team now? He's like, there's loads of great players that were absolute ballers, proper talented. Now, if you can just run a bit further than everyone else and you can basically pass it from A to B, you're getting a decent career in the Premier League.
Now, of course, I know it's Michael Owen, and he isn't the greatest source of punditry, but I do kind of get his point. With him talking about players like Letizia and Bergkamp in the Premier League during the 90s and the 2000s, who weren't just good athletes, but also had so much quality and so much talent. And it's not just that as well, it feels like football has become kind of softer as well. As football back in the day, particularly in the Serie A, for example, during the 80s and 90s, was a lot more physical than today's game, defensively anyway. And that sort of gave more of an entertainment value and would add a lot more drama to the game for viewers. Now, I'm not saying footballers should just go out there and try and break everyone's legs, no, but it feels like, particularly with the defending nowadays, it's a lot less physical compared to what strikers had to put up with back in the day. Now, of course, on the flip side of all this, there are people on the other side of the argument who say football isn't falling off and everyone is just being a nostalgia merchant. And to be honest, I do kind of agree with that, and I think it's right to a certain extent. And if anything, maybe the game of football has actually got a lot better, with people saying that football becoming a lot more tactical has actually improved the game of football and made the quality physicality go up a level, as teams now are a lot more tactically focused and disciplined compared to teams back in the day, and are better at getting the results they need as a team, rather than just relying on players for just pure individual brilliance. So maybe football hasn't necessarily fallen off and is becoming less boring. Maybe us as fans are just being blinded by our own nostalgia, and we think that the football we watched back in the day was superior to the football we see now. And of course, in my own personal opinion, I don't think football has fallen off. I don't think it can ever fall off. It's the sport that I and so many of us have loved since we were literally kids, and it's a sport that we will just continue to love forever and ever. Now, I will say one thing, I do agree with the fact that the players we see today are nothing compared to the players we saw in the 2010s, for example. You compare the players we have now to the likes of Messi, Suarez and Neymar, Bale, Benzema, Ronaldo, the robbery duo, even the defenders, for example the likes of Maldini, Nesta and Ramos. All of these guys, in my opinion, are just superior players to the players we watch now. And to be fair, maybe when today's current players eventually retire and the next generation of players come through, my thoughts might change, but for now, that's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you actually think football is getting boring and is falling off, or are we just being nostalgia merchants? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have enjoyed, please be sure to like and subscribe if you're new around here. We're so close to 900 subs, so any support would be massively appreciated. And thanks for watching. This has been Discussing Ball.